One of the most common questions I get asked is what bottles of whiskey should you invest in? And in this video, I'm going to tell you my 3 top picks. So welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name's Mark Littler. I'm a whiskey broker, whiskey consultant and whiskey market analyst. And if you want to buy rare whiskies, head over to marklittler.com. We've got everything that you need there. And in this video, we're going to take a look at 3 of my top picks for 2022. And these are priced at roughly $400, $500 and £1,000. So they're not expensive whiskies in the scheme of things, but yes, they are quite expensive. Now, these are my top picks for investment. I'm not talking about drinking here. The bottles will be much cheaper than this, but these are my investment picks. Now, there's 3 main ways to invest in whiskey, in my opinion. You've got arbitrage or flipping. So you buy a bottle on RRP and you flip it. One example of that would be the Springbank 30-year-old that's just come out for £860–70, and it's now selling at auction for £2,000 or £3,000. That's arbitrage. Buying a Macallan Distill Your World, buying a folio, waiting for the secondary market to go up and flipping it. It's not clever, it's a heck of a lot of luck, and there's nothing really fundamental propping up those prices in terms of age statements or quality of whiskey. The second way of doing it is to look at, to do a data analysis driven investment. So look at the bottles, see how they're performing, look at their return on investments each year and do that. We do help clients do that, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about the final type of investment strategy, which is looking at undervalued bottles on the market, looking at their fundamental values and seeing whether the market agrees with you or not. Now, there's good precedent for this. This is what Warren Buffett does with Berkshire Hathaway. They look at companies, they make their assessment of their value, and if it's under market value, then they buy. And I would say all 3 of these bottles are grossly undervalued using other market standards. So let's dive into it and let's look at the first bottle. So this is where our top-down camera setup is going to come into its own, hopefully. And here is the first bottle. As you can see, it's a Glenfarclas bottling from the case, and what a nice case it is too. Now, let's remember, I bought this retail for £394.50p. You can buy all of these retail now. They're all still available and there's links in the description below. You could probably try and save some money buying them at auction, but after shipping fees, after everything else, it's probably going to work out more expensive. So if you want these, I'd suggest going to retail for them. Now, Glenfarclas, we did a video about their distillery's history on the channel a couple of months ago, so go and watch that if you want to learn more about them. But they're truly a massively undervalued brand in the market at the moment, especially when you compare them to the likes of Springbank. So this here is a Glenfarclas box, and inside it isn't just a normal bottle of Glenfarclas, it's a 25-year-old limited edition. One of 600 decanters. This is an engraved crystal decanter. It's the same decanter that they use for the World Series, the same decanter that they use for the £5,000 40-year-old bottling. It's 49.5% ABV, and it's just beautiful. The whole presentation on this, it really is sensational. Now, it's £400 a bottle, which is similar to what the Springbank 25 sells at. That was £380 when it was released in 2021, and the current market value of that at auction, it's about £2,000 a bottle. Why is this languishing at £400 and the Springbank's jumped up to £2,000? It's you guys, it's you girls, it's you people. Your perception hasn't changed. You don't value these whiskies as much as you value Springbanks for whatever reason. The whiskey quality is equally as good, massive sherry bombs. Why aren't these jumping in value? And this is what I think. These aren't instant purchases to buy and flip. These are 3-5-year holds and wait for the market perception to change, because believe me, they will change. So again, another good comparison with this 25-year-old is the Macallan 25-year-old. So I think this Glenfarclas trumps the Springbank 25-year-old in terms of presentation, hands down. You look at the Macallan 25-year-old 2021, that was nearly £2,000 at RRP, £1,750, and that's nearly £3,000 on the secondary market. And I would say the presentation on this Glenfarclas is better than the Macallan. It really looks really fantastic. So these are, or that is, a really gorgeous bottle of whiskey for around £400. But what if you've got £500 to spend? What should you be buying then? So surprisingly enough, guess what I'm going to suggest that you buy? I'm going to suggest that you go and buy one of these beautiful bottles. It's the Glenfarclas 30-year-old warehouse collection. Here it is, beautiful presentation. This is the outer slipcase, and inside, again, if you've been to the distillery, you'll recognize these iconic red warehouse doors. How does this open again? Slide it. I mean, come on. Look at the presentation on this for a £470 bottle of whiskey. Presentation, in my opinion, is absolutely spot on. And the whiskey inside, so this isn't one of the fancy decanters like the 25-year-olds. This is sort of like one of the standard core range bottlings, but it's still really nicely presented. Nice dumpy bottle. But again, like, who cares about the bottles, folios? It's all about the tins and the presentations. And the thing is with this, it's not just about the quality of the presentation, it's about the quality of the whiskey. You know, this is 30-year-old whiskey. There have only ever been 2,100 releases of 30-year-old whiskey. It's a rare age statement to get. A Macallan 30-year-old will cost you sort of £3,000 at RRP, like 10 times or nearly 10 times more than this. And that's currently selling at auction for about £5,000 or £6,000 a bottle. Again, look at the Springbank 30-year-old, 865 RRP when it was released a few weeks ago, and now it's £3,800 a bottle. Why? Nothing. Perception. People's perceptions have changed. They haven't changed yet with Glenfarclas. So that is a sensational bottle of whiskey, in my opinion, for £470 at retail. So let's go crazy. Let's think that you've got £1,000 or so to spend on a bottle of whiskey. What should you buy? So let me get our final bottle up for us, and any guesses what it's going to be? A Glenfarclas again. 40-year-old Glenfarclas, about £1,100 at retail. It's part of this warehouse collection series again, so you get this beautiful presentation case. Here it comes, and then inside this one you've got your 40-year-old, which again is part of their core range. It's mad, isn't it, that their core range includes a 40-year-old, but that is a really nicely presented bottle of whiskey, and it's only £1,100. But let's put this into context. You know, there were 2,100 releases of 30-year-old on the market. There have only ever been about 800 bottles of 40-year-old whiskey produced. To get whiskey to 40-year-old is a phenomenal effort, and that is reflected in the pricings. Look at the Macallan Red collection. The 40-year-old Macallan Red, £10,300 at RRP, currently around £19,000 for a bottle of it. Look at the Brewer Prima and Ultima, the 40-year-old, £5,000 or £10,000 at auction. The Glenfiddich 40-year-old, that's about £3,000 at auction. There were only about 10 releases of 40-year-old whiskey last year, ever, across the whole Scotch market. There are 10 releases. It's crazy. Now, with these, I just can't believe how this 40-year-old can be so cheap. Because if you look, it's almost like there's an anomaly with their calculations. Because if you look at the 40-year-old that's in the crystal decanter, similar to this 25-year-old, that is about £5,000 at RRP. You then jump up to the sort of the 50, 60-year-old Glenfarclas, and then the price starts going into this 5 figures. So this 40-year-old Glenfarclas, yes, it's the most expensive, but arguably represents the best value. So there we have it. There are my 3 top picks for whiskey investments in 2022. Yes, they're all from the Glenfarclas distillery because it's an awesome distillery that makes fantastic whiskey, but is grossly undervalued on the secondary market. They're all very high age statements, 25, 30, 40 years old. Compare that to the nonsense of the Distill Your Worlds and the Folios, which are no age statement nonsense. Look at the pricing of them. They're £400, £500 and £1,000, £1,100. It's not expensive in the scheme of investable whiskey. And then look at the presentation of them as well. Beautiful wooden boxes, beautiful decanters in the case of the 25-year-old. They have so much potential that people are just overlooking. And these are the sorts of bottles that I think, you know, are great long-term holds. So what do you think? Have I made the 3 right decisions here? What do you think? Tell me your top investment whiskies of 2022 and get them in the comments below.